Trevor Eve, welcome to BBC Radio London.
Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, congratulations on writing a novel.
Yes.
It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. No, my admiration for novelists was always high. It's now sky high. Yeah.
What made you want to do this?
Well, I've always written. I mean, I'm an actor, obviously, so words are what I use. Like musicians use notes. That's what we trade in. I've always written for private consumption, journals and stuff. And there was recently I had some time. I went to stay with a friend and had some time on my hands, and I was looking through my journals, and I came across a couple of pages of me leaving Palm Springs and going through the wind turbines and the different environment, and I suddenly started to think there's a story here. And I sat and reflected for not very long on the story, and it sort of came to me. And I wrote 3, 4, 5 hours a day and disciplined myself to do that for 3.
Because you got to bums in
but
seat.
The thing was, Jason, I absolutely loved it.
Oh wow!
I mean, I just loved the process.
Because when I was reading your novel to myself, I was thinking, well, I can see Trevor doing the audio book here. Actually telling the story. It has that. It has a storyteller's, narrative to it. You're on to the next thing, and there's a love of words and description.
Yes.
And I could see you reading it to yourself as you were writing.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really humbled by the process because I've admired so many writers. They're my kind of heroes in life, and I feel very humbled to be sitting here holding this. I'm now a published author, and
congratulations!
I'm really completely thrilled.
Were those? I mean, this is a story of Palm Springs in LA, and most people.
Yes, it's in LA.
People think, well, Trevor Eve, but we associate with the English stage, with British TV, with British
I've
movies.
lived in LA. I lived there for 8 years straight, and I've been back and forth. My kids are born there, and my daughter lives there. This story, Lomita For Ever. Lomita is a character, as is Ever. He's short for Everett Millen, and he's a 30-year-old man who lives in England, who was born in Los Angeles, who goes over to wrap up the business affairs of his father, who's had an untimely death. And his father disintegrated in the last 12 years of his life, and Ever blames a particular man who betrayed him. And he's intent on revenge. And during the journey of his revenge, he meets this extraordinary woman who's nearly 50 years older than he is, called Lomita Nairn. They form this bond, this very, very deep bond. And we trace back to find out why Ever is in the mental state that he is at the beginning of the book. And we trace back into Lomita's life to find out why she is like she is. And they join and go on this very, very dark journey together.
Yeah, through the underbelly of it.
Yes. And but names, it's interesting because obviously I think a lot about everything else, but names come to me like that.
Wow.
I don't know what it is, but I don't have to think, what shall I call? Lomita Nairn just came to me, Everett Millen, all the names just come fast.
Because sometimes they're really hard. You have to get a book out.
No, I don't.
Peter, is he this?
No, they just come to me. Everybody's name in the book, literally I'm writing and then the name is there.
They are redolent. Because LA has lots of strange names, from Sepulveda to Ciénaga, and all of these strange names that sort of Spanish inflected.
Well, it depends what if you're on Waze, if you have the English person doing the Waze, and it's hilarious because they get all the pronunciations of La Ciénaga as, La Ciénaga. And
I think I would do very well as a voiceover artist on LA Waze. You need it in LA, Lord knows. Yeah. But your book's very good on those. On the roads, on what you see by the wayside, the signs.
I'm an obsessive in terms of detail, yeah. And I everywhere. I mean, I'm on my second book.
Oh, right! It doesn't stop here.
No, I love the process so much, and I just hope that this affords me the opportunity to get published again. But you never know, And I believe that you have to know the foundation, obviously. So I go to the places that I write about. And in this, it's not just in LA. It goes to another country as well. And indeed, I went there.
You went there as well?
I go to all the places.
I wondered as I was reading it, is it? Do you put the same research at given time
Yeah.
to when you're creating an acting character?
Yes. I am an obsessive like that. I just need to get the foundations in there, and then the imagination takes off. But you just need to know what the roots are, what you're dealing with, what earth, whose particular earth you're standing on. I think is what I like to find.
So in that instance, the processes are similar in some way, but in some ways the processes are also vastly different.
Vastly different. The thing about being a writer, or whatever I can call myself, I wouldn't presume to be so grand as to
You're
call
officially
myself
an author.
I know,
sure.
but it's just so thrilling for me. I'm really humbled by the process, I have to say. But what was I saying?
We're talking about the difference between being an actor and being an author.
The thing about being a writer is that you are in control of absolutely everything. It is your world. And a novel, you can kind of do anything you want. It's not even like a script where you've got budget considerations, locations, character numbers, and the rest of it. A novel is just a sort of bag of tricks. It's a baggy bag. And that's what is amazing, because as an actor, you get told what to do very often, quite rightly, and do it better and all the rest of it. And this is just an extraordinary experience to create a world on your own.
Were you expecting someone to come in at the room and say, cut, or do it soft?
Well, there is that nerve-wracking time. I knew one writer. I knew two. But one, I'd finished this sort of book. Well, it's not called a book until it's published. It's called a manuscript. Shows you how much I knew about the process.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah.
Don't big yourself up until it's out.
No, I sent the manuscript to a writer who I think is probably one of the greatest writers in my lifetime, a contemporary novelist called William Boyd.
Oh, he's a fantastic writer.
Yeah, phenomenal writer. And I said, I wonder if you would be kind enough to read this.
Cool, blimey, that took some brass neck, didn't it?
Yes. It did. And I got a very nice email back saying, I'm very, very busy. It'll probably take me a month. And then 3 days later, I got an email, and I can sob, but very rarely do tears just leap out of my eyes. And he was so positive and praised the work so much that I literally sat on the bed and cried. And he gave me the confidence to sort of to carry on and go out there and present it to an agent and go through the process.
Which is great, because you need that. And every actor needs it. Every actor, of course, everyone thinks, but he's so wonderful. He's in charge of waking the dead. He's the boss. He's in vain. We've seen him on stage. But of course, there's always a lurking insecurity, particularly when you're trying something new.
Well, yes, and also when you've had a career of moderate success for 45 years, and you're treading on the territory of people whose entire lives have been spent doing this, you're not exactly, I don't think, welcomed with open arms by the community. And, it's not like they've discovered a young author here. It's not like they're grabbing this 22-year-old fresh out of Oxford and they think, wow, we've got just all these books to come.
The new enfant terrible, the publishing sensation.
This is a 67-year-old guy who's...
What one might think when hears that Trevor Eve has a book out is that it's a warts and all telling of drugs and sex in 60s and 70s London, or a warts and all telling of Hollywood excess, or just an actor report.
How great it would have been to have lived that life, Jason.
Is that what people wanted from you? We should Trevor Eve. They say, "Oh, brilliant! What's it about? Isn't it about
I suppose
you mucking about in tights?"
Well, I was asked to do an autobiography, and I did indeed a few years ago sit down in an attempt to write one, and just thought, well, it's just going to be a fiction in itself, because you can't really say the truth because you'll upset people.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to have to say, and then I did this wonderful job with these wonderful people, and there was this wonderful, and that's, unless you're prepared to do a warts and all and hurt people, and I wasn't.
No, and why should you really?
Yeah,
you need to work again.
Exactly.
And B, you've got a daughter in the business.
Exactly. I mean, you do, and sometimes it's your opinion, and they you don't want to condemn unjustly or just say the wrong thing. I mean, it's I didn't want to do it.
We look at now you're a novelist, an author, because the book's out. We can say that, but you've also it always seems to me in your career, never committed to one form or another. In fact, when you did Waking the Dead, I think you did 9 seasons or 9 series, as we call them in this country, of that. Well, that was one of the longest runs I've seen you do one character, because normally even Shoestring, who sort of was one of your early
it was different times then. I can remember doing Shoestring. I did a series, the first series I think was 11 episodes, and the second series was 10. And then I declined to do a third series because those were the days when they had the word typecasting, and you can't be seen to be playing the same role. And so doing series then was just not the thing. I mean, now it's exact
now it's what
opposite.
You want. I want 8 seasons of
Everybody wants to just be in series. So I also had a theatre play that I had to learn American Sign Language to do for 6 months before I did it. So I really had to get out.
Which was
it's called Children of a Lesser God,
of course.
So
which became a movie as well. But you did your London stage production.
I did, yeah. And I went to New York to learn the sign language, which I loved. And so I needed to put 18 months aside because it ran for a year here. So I couldn't do both. So I chose, in those days there were sort of purists. We were all,
But did that set the tone?
Art.
Did that set the tone? Because you come back to telly quite often, costume dramas, some
course,
fantastic roles, but you've also always been in theatre.
Yes.
You never really left it.
I have of late. I mean, when I did Waking the Dead, I didn't have time to do the theatre. And then you leave it for a period of time and you think, oh God, am I going to go back and do that? And then it's harder to go back. I mean, I never say never, but people now say to me, isn't it time for your King Lear? And I go, oh God, am I that old?
When you were writing Lomita For Ever, your novel, your latest novel, your first, but not your last novel.
Well, one hopes.
Yeah. Were you... it's LA. It had the voice to me of, obviously I thought cinematically, a bit of Sunset Boulevard, a bit of Raymond Chandler, a bit of that noir. I think
it's noir. I think it is definitely, that's what it's described as a noir thriller. I wasn't, Raymond Chandler I love as an author, and I don't know that I consciously wrote it in a noir form, but I completely accept that, it is noir. Whatever noir.
Yeah, I didn't know if
means.
you had a voiceover in your head. There was where it felt like the opening of Sunset Boulevard, William Holden there, or it felt like Chandler. But that prose is very hard to do. That Chandler, that economy of prose,
he's brilliant.
Like a cudgel. They're so precise his sentence.
No, I didn't have anybody in mind. I didn't think I was really in the realm of having the ability to pastiche anybody. I just tried my damnedest to write. I can honestly say that I wrote it from my heart. That's where
did you write it?
I wrote some of it in Mexico and some of it in Los Angeles and some of it in London.
Wow! So it is a tripartite kind of novel, because it needs that in it. So because it moves.
I visit those.
Those places. And you said you lived in LA, which I didn't know. Were you working out there?
Yes, I lived in the 80s and early 90s. I was there. My children were born there. I'm very fond of Los Angeles. It takes a lot of flack from people, but I love the mountains and the desert and the ocean. I love all the kind of geography of it. I think is fantastic. I mean, it has its obvious drawbacks, but then I can't think of a place in the world that doesn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of actors in LA. It could be good and it could be bad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of can-do and positivity. There's also a lot of darkness, which you channel very nicely in the book. And I think that's because it's so sunny and, as you say, and it's all Hollywood and glitz. But, of course, there's a lot of darkness
underneath. There is,
I don't know if you were writing, as I mentioned, that I felt that there was a cadence to the voice, the narrating voice. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you felt some music while you were writing it.
Yes, I did.
Felt the swell of the underscore. Who were the score? Who was doing the score? What
Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey. Were you actually writing to Lana Del Rey? Why is that?
I love Lana Del Rey.
Well, we should play some Lana Del Rey for Trevor Eve in that case.
I had Lana Del Rey lyrics in there, but I had to take them out because it cost too much to have just 3 lines of a Lana Del Rey song. But yes, I've made the trek a few times to see her live,
Wow.
Down to Glastonbury, stood in the pouring rain.
Tremendous performer. Yeah,
I just think that she captured for me a voice of the darkness of Los Angeles, of the sort of underbelly in a way of I know she's 40 years younger than me or whatever, but I kind of recognize it and found it in fact for me it fitted what I was. I don't know. I liked her before I started writing the book. I just thought she was a very original voice and talent.
Absolutely.
When
and her name sounds like a little place in Orange County, next to
not
Marina
her name,
Del Rey.
though, is it?
Well, exactly, but she's come up with it. But it's
yes, exactly.
One of those little,
it does.
little satellite suburbs of
LA. Marina.
Yeah, it's her sister. For Trevor Eve and for his new book, Lomita For Ever, we're going to play some Lana Del Rey. Why not? Trevor, absolute pleasure having you as a guest. Thank you so much for coming in, and best of luck with the next book.
Well, let's just say best of luck with this one.
You haven't hung up the tights, though. We will see you on
stage. I'm on stage, but I'm off to film the second series of Discovery of Witches now. It's a trilogy, so this is the second book.
Yeah, that was set in Oxford, the first one, wasn't it?
Yes, I work in Italy because my character was the Pope in 989. Yeah. So yeah. I'm 1,000 years old. No makeup needed.
See, that King Lear's nearer than you think. Trevor Eve on your debut novel, Lomita For Ever. Congratulations.